Losing much of our carport roof in the storm has prompted us to embark on our first major project at Bramble Cottage. Rather than simply replace the roof like for like, we've decided to completely rethink how this useful but painfully ugly building should look and work for us. Hi, I'm Cameron. This is Stina, that's Suki, and that's Bramble. We moved 200 miles to the south of Scotland to take a chance on a life that we wanted to live. We're slowly building our dream, doing as much as we can ourselves and repurposing where possible to save money and reduce waste. Welcome to Bramble Cottage.
Last week, Cameron removed the entire carport roof, leaving just the frame and this end wall. Check out part 1 of this series if you want to see how he got on. This carport is nearly 6 metres wide, far bigger than we need. So, looking at the frame, we wondered if we might be able to move the structural uprights in a distance and recreate the carport as a smaller, more attractive building. The first step to deciding on that was to find out what lay beneath. I took an opportunity away from my day job to find out if the steel uprights might be movable. Were they in good enough condition to be moved? Were they set into concrete? How far might that concrete go underneath? First thing to note, once again the soil under the gravel is surprisingly good stuff, so I decided to collect it in a trug so that I can tip it onto the lawn area where I'm establishing new beds. Right. So this is not particularly a surprise. We have solid concrete and a flat surface at the bottom there. So we thought that might be the case. It's a fair bit deeper than I'd hoped. I don't know if they put this in at the driveway level and then built up around it or something like that. But the next step will be further excavation to see how big that is, if it's all the way across the bottom or if it's something we could pull out. Further investigation complete, and we've decided that we will dismantle this end wall and attempt to move the 2 uprights further in.
Moving this wall will be good for us for several reasons. Most of all, it'll open up this very dark corner, letting in a bit more light to the darkest part of the cottage, and it'll create a more usable parking space that will free up other areas to become usable parts of the garden instead. This is an old nest belonging to Myrtle, the collar dove who was already living here when we moved in. We have to remove it, but don't worry, she returned from a winter holiday last week and she's picked a new home in the holly tree, which is a much safer place for her anyway. It's already feeling brighter, isn't it? And finally it's time to dismantle our makeshift firewood rack and shelf. Bit of a slow day today. The rain has just been slow but persistent. So one of the things which we did a little bit earlier was we marked out where we're going to be digging the new holes for this. Basically we ran a rope over the top here and dropped it down as a plumb line, and we've marked them off with these bits of rope and a couple of little stakes. So I've got to be careful not to rake those up, but I'm going to be using those as my markers for where to dig the posts in. Finally, it's time to start removing the overhead beams. But then it started raining again. Okay. Getting this beam down is urgent because you saw the rain. Removing the rest of the roof has left a gap in the ceiling of the shed just in front of me, and it's right above some of the old electrics. So we're keen to get this off so we can more easily patch that up before the next downpour. Now that I have the beam down, I'm separating the two halves because we want to put the half length back up once we've moved the uprights to the new position. Final beam nearly down. Look how open it is now. Last step, removing this crossbeam, and then it'll be time to get those uprights out. Luckily the footings don't seem to be huge, but there does seem to be an additional horizontal bar down there that's holding the metal girder in place. Well, we've finally got some dry weather, even if it's not terribly nice. We managed to get this one out of the hole here. It took a bit of work and I had to do it off camera because it just kept raining and I wanted to see how difficult it would be. And this is what came out. Whilst Dina joined me to dig new holes for the uprights where we'd put out markers, I made a start on removing the second and final upright. Pretty much everything we do here at Bramble Cottage involves scraping back some sort of gravel first. Once again, there seems to be something stopping this from coming fully loose. As for the previous upright, I resorted to adding a makeshift lever using existing holes in the steel to help me pull the upright loose and lift it out. It worked pretty well both times.
Where there isn't concrete, almost every part of this site is covered in gravel and landscape fabric like this, and it just makes everything feel so lacking in vitality. We're keen to remove as much of it as we possibly can, but it's going to take years to work through it all bit by bit. So you can see here that if I line up the original hole here with the beam over there, that the carport originally kinked out a little bit and wasn't in line with the shed wall there. So we've dug our hole in line with this, but actually we want to be in line with the shed, which means we need to shift the whole hole a little bit to the right. In the end, we found we needed to expand both holes by at least half a foot towards the white wall, just to make sure we could get these uprights positioned exactly as we wanted them. Needless to say that whilst getting the uprights positioned and perfectly vertical turned out to be surprisingly easy, getting them to sit at exactly the right height took several attempts. Luckily we had plenty of spare gravel that we could shovel in underneath the uprights to help lift them slightly. We added just enough earth mixed with gravel back into the holes to hold the uprights in position for the time being, but with a view to adding concrete footings later. I think they're finally there. You can see here that this one, which was perfectly vertical, is now a little bit squiff as a result of shunting it with this piece. So we're going to put the cross brace on and then that should pull that in, and then this one's off in the opposite direction, so both of them should pull into the centre when they're joined up.
That is the structure fully back in place from where we moved it here to there. We still have a little bit of work to do down here. So the footings just need something to really hold them in. This one we had a little bit of a problem because what was there broke. So we've got some concrete and stuff and we're going to have a go at that in the next video. Get the footings down properly. But this is a great starting point.